Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Talk with the Doc with Dr. Akil Taher. I'm Velan Hawkins and I am going to get us started here. I'm so excited about this because if you know Dr. Akil, you know his heart and how he wants to share such great information with everyone about living this whole food, plant-based vegan lifestyle and doing it the best way possible. If you don't know him, he's a practicing medical doctor, an author, explorer, adventurer, and of course, a strong advocate for a whole food, plant-based vegan lifestyle. He's a septuagenarian athlete who, after surviving heart bypass surgery, goes around the world educating people about the way out of chronic illness and disease and into good health. His book is called Open Heart: The Transformational Journey of a Doctor who, after bypass surgery at 61, ran marathons and climbed mountains and so much more. It's a great read and I highly recommend it. But today we are talking about, or Dr. Keel's going to be sharing about, the dairy dilemma. We're just going to talk about the myths, the facts, and what we need to know in order to make sure that we are in the best health and we have the knowledge and information to share with our friends. So, with that being said, let me say, Dr. Keel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. It's always been a pleasure to have you introduce me because you give me more credit than I'm due. Anyway, so today we are going to talk about dairy's dilemma. What are the facts, the myths, and the health concerns? See, dairy is marketed as nature's perfect food. Yes, it is true. It is true if you are a child and you are having your mother's milk, or if you're a calf and you're having cow's milk. And it is essential for strong bones, good health, and even happiness. Again, with the mother's milk and the cow's milk for the cow, the mother's milk for the mother. But what I tell you is that behind the glossy ads and those smiling milk mustaches lies a very different story. I believe that these mustaches, which were there, the milk ones, politicians had it. I believe I've seen Clinton have it. I've seen celebrities have it. A lot of actors and actresses, a lot of athletes have it. So, wondering that why? Because we are really fighting against a very strong industry, the dairy industry. Far from being essential, dairy may actually be harming our hearts, our waistline, and even our planet. If dairy was discovered today, so forget nobody knew about dairy, and dairy was discovered today with all its links to heart disease or diabetes or cancer, it would probably come with a warning label, not a smiling cow on a billboard. Dairy is for what? Think about a little human baby as compared to a calf. That calf is designed to get to about double its weight when it's born in 45 days. So that dairy is the only food that calf can do that, increasing the weight in 45 days. That now we also know that we've all been told that milk does the body good. Whose body? Maybe the dairy's industry's body, definitely not ours. So from the beginning, get into the mindset that thousands of years ago, when farming started and dairy was thousands and thousands, dairy was introduced. And as it so happens that it got into our ways of life to continue using this. Okay, so we'll just touch on the environmental issues and the ethical issues. What is animal farming? Let me just talk about animal farming. In animal farming, you require more acres of land, deforesting it and to cultivate, than you require for produce. So you are deforesting lots and lots of trees. And when you do that, you get the carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is produced, which attracts the sunlight. And that makes the overall temperature increase. So you have a high temperature, which can melt your glaciers, and those glaciers will then come into the seawater. The seawater increases and causes a problem to low-lying cities, like we have uh, in Florida. Miami is a low-lying city, so this can be affected by animal farming. But what it does is animal farming can also cause increase in greenhouse gases. The estimates suggest that dairy accounts for about 20% of food related greenhouse emissions globally. Now, there was a satellite based study in Canada that found that methane levels above dairy farms and areas are far, far higher, significantly higher. So, and it also pollutes our water, methane. So, we are just uh, not realizing how bad it is for the environmental aspect. So, that is your environmental issue. And then comes your ethical issue, the dark side of dairy. And in 1990s, there was the Food and Drug was FDA told the population that 3 glasses of milk for adults and 2 glasses for children. Can you imagine that? But so what happens in the animal kingdom? There are no species other than humans who drink milk once we are weaned. But we are smarter. We not only drink the species, we are the only species that drink milk of another species. See, we now are so uh, we are we feel entitled that it's a second nature to artificially inseminate a cow, and when she gives birth, we literally steal her baby. And even though we hear her cries of anguish, then we take that milk which was intended for the calf, we put it into our coffee. And some of us put it into our cereal. And you hear the mama cows are often heard mooing helplessly in the night in the hope of hearing from the babies. Now, what happens? The male calves are taken away, locked into very tiny crates, force fed, slaughtered, and then sold as veal to upscale restaurants. What happens to the female? The female cows are allowed to grow, and the whole wretched cycle repeats itself. Now, next time you have dairy in any form, cheese or yogurt or milk, think of it as life, not as food. And then your whole thought process will change. So we come to see there are two aspects that you should understand. One is, say you have a cow, grass fed, not given any other feeds, and you have the milk. Even this milk is not for human consumption. But And then we talk about not only that, we are talking about raw milk. Straight away from that, and you drink it, that again is not good for human consumption and can cause a lot and lot of infections. So, a lot of people tell me that, oh, we are drinking grass fed. Oh, grass fed cows have that A1 higher than the A2. The A2 is supposed to be more bad for humans. But none of the milk, we are not even talking about the factory farm dairy right now. I'm trying to talk about milk that is what people envision as healthy. But when you talk about factory farm dairy, then you think about it. What's really in your milk? 99% of the people in this world, or even at least in US, are drinking factory farm dairy. So, what is factory farm dairy when you talk about it? It is, first of all, this milk is pasteurized. That means that your milk is heated very fast to kill all the bacteria. Okay? That's number one, pasteurized. But it is also homogenized. And this is the danger. See, homogenized meaning that you are now taking the fat particles in the milk and making it very small, tiny particles. And these are dangerous. These mix into the milk, makes it more whiter, and these fat particles are more dangerous than the other. Now, in India, for example, when milk is not homogenized, that means you have the fat particles. So what you get is a cream. Your milk that you have got from the grocery store, you cannot get that cream on the top because it is homogenized. And that cream on the top, now I'm thinking about it. As a child, I loved that cream. And we used to have that cream, put sugar in it, and have it. But that is dangerous. That's your fat particle. Now, if you have, that is why your milk right now, even if you let it stand, you heat it, it'll never form the cream level because it is homogenized. So, what does milk basically have? It has got the insulin, like growth factor 1, that can cause insulin resistance and lead to diabetes. Now, we already said you have to inseminate the cow, factory farm dairy I'm talking about. You have to inseminate the cow, impregnate it so that it's constantly pregnant. That means, how do you do this? Go on giving estrogen shots. Now, this estrogen comes into milk, and it is proven beyond doubt that it does cause cancer of the prostate, this estrogen in the milk, and probably causing cancer of the uterus. Now, third thing is what? When you have this huge steel-like things to extract the milk out of the rudders in factory farm dairy, you have a lot of lacerations on the udders. So to avoid and to not avoid, but to treat these lacerations and infections, we use large amount of antibiotics. The use of antibiotics in animals is far greater than the use of antibiotics in human beings. I don't know, but I used to have some patients as factory farm workers, and they have told me that they are not grass fed. They're fed these grains mixed with unnatural animal byproducts in their feed. Bones and gut and everything is being fed to the cows. And that is what you are getting in the milk. And then you have these toxic chemicals like your DES and dioxins and iodine residues which can contaminate dairy. What are the hidden dangers of dairy? Harmful effects of dairy. First of all, you look at it. Now we are talking about uh, natural milk that is there, which is not factory farm, or it is factory farm. This is common to all the milk, all the dairy. First of all, it has large amounts of saturated fat and cholesterol. Dairy is the single largest source of saturated fat in the American diet. And at least one third, I believe, of all saturated fat comes from cheese, butter, milk, and other dairy products. 1 cup of 2% milk is equivalent to 1 ounce of meat in the saturated fat and cholesterol content. And therefore, my good friend Rip Esselstyn will always say that dairy is the liquid meat. Now, both saturated fat and cholesterol, we all know this, increase the risk of heart disease, Alzheimer's, and type 2 diabetes. Number two, lactose intolerance. People will make you believe that it is 65% of the world population is. No, it is far greater because we have taken it into our stride. That, okay, I'm having a heavy meal, I'm getting a little distended and bloated. Oh, that's natural. It's not natural. Lactose intolerance is not a disease. It's a normal human condition because your enzyme lactase disappears. It is there when you are there for taking your mother's milk. That has lactose too. So, in my opinion, maybe 95, 80, 85, 95% of the world's population is basically lactose intolerant. And, bloating, distension, gaseous, digestive discomfort are all the symptoms that we get, and we say, oh, it's okay, like. Third, casein. Casein is a protein in cow's milk. It cannot be digested by human beings. And therefore, what does casein do? It increases the IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which promotes cancer growth. Now, think about it. When you have cheese, its large quantities of milk are required to form a small quantity of cheese. So this cheese now becomes extremely high in casein, right? So what it does is casein breaks down into what is called casomorphine. And casomorphine, like morphine derivative, it becomes extremely addictive because it's like the opiate-like compound. So making cheese highly addictive. That is why I've seen so many times in my patients. I tell them to give up dairy. I call them back in about a month's time how they felt. And they say, yeah, reasonably good. I've given up dairy. And then I say, what about cheese? Oh, no, 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 no. That is not dairy. I gave up milk. They cannot because they're addicted. So they have to be told that you have to give up cheese too. Because most of the people think that giving up milk or yogurt is good enough. No, cheese is the main thing. Casein can also cause a lot of cancers later on in life, which people don't realize. Another thing that I've found out in my research is because of the IGF-1, this hormone, because casein can cause increase in this IGF-1, This hormone can enlarge the pores and increase the production of keratin, a skin protein, and oil also, which can build up and clog the pores, causing acne. Now, I used to have young people come around with acne, and I used to send them sometimes to the dermatologist. Oh, creams were given, antibiotics were given, benzomycin was told to be applied on the face. Uh, do not eat so many nuts, but nobody talked about dairy. And now I'm finding that if these people give up dairy, that is the solution. Plus, you get so many people getting this sinus infection, sinus congestion. It's not an infection. You don't need antibiotics. Mucousy things in the morning, uh, your your uh, your cough is all mucousy, and all this is basically due to your dairy, and it can cause a lot of allergies too. So, in fact, casein, as far as I remember correctly, think it was Colin Campbell who said it is a cancer-producing substance. He was the first person to coin that. And so all your things that you are there with, uh, acne, allergies, sinus issues, gastrointestinal symptoms, can all be uh, completely gone or reduced if you give up dairy. Now, another thing is the whey protein in the milk is also known in cow's milk, also known to trigger acne. So there are so many factors. This is in milk, apart from the unhealthy aspects of factory dairy. What are the myths versus reality? See, dairy reduces inflammation. These are actually these are uh, not double-blinded studies. These are observational studies done by the dairy industry. So dairy industry says that it reduces inflammation. Let me first tell you what is inflammation. Most people think inflammation is if you get osteoarthritis in your knee slightly swells up, or if you get an ankle sprain, you get a little swelling and you say that is inflammation. Yeah, we say that is inflammation, but that is not the inflammation I am talking about. I am talking about the inflammation that causes cardiovascular disease, diabetes, strokes, and uh, so many other things that we are talking about in terms of uh, inflammation. So when you have this kind of inflammation, it is 100% that dairy is pro-inflammatory. Joint pains, acne, sinus, and gut issues are there secondary to dairy become inflammatory. Milk makes you look slim, strong, and attractive. It's a myth. It's a myth. Right now, I know so many children whose parents have become young parents have become vegan and given up milk, and when they get children, they bring up their children totally devoid of milk, and they're growing up great. I know a 5-year old, I know a 7-year old, I know a 5-month old. Nothing wrong with their bones, nothing wrong with their teeth. So it's a fallacy to think that it makes you, but this is what the ads do, which are backed by dairy industry. In fact, dairy is linked to obesity, high blood pressure, insulin resistance because of that IGF-1. And then they talk about athletes. Dairy is the best recovery food for athletes. No, athletes need carbs, not animal protein. Dairy is equal to fats, cholesterol, no fiber. And so I go back on to that person who recently died, an Indian, uh, a Sikh, Fauja Singh. He died at the age of 113. He was, uh, in fact, he died of an accident, not a natural death, road accident. But he mentioned to one of the interviewers and reporters that he has never had milk, and his bones were strong enough to carry him on doing a marathon at the age of 100. So it's just what they tell you, you know. Uh, Yogurt, another myth is yogurt and kefir are high in probiotics. Understand this. Milk does not have probiotics. Probiotics are added. There are better source of probiotics than just having uh, the dairy, which has got probiotics added. So what you have is much better your fermented probiotics that you have, like kombucha, your kimchi, your miso, your tempeh. And plants also have a lot of prebiotic fiber. Then you have is you need 1500 milligrams of calcium per day, and if you do not take that milk, you're not going to get this. Now, let me tell you, you only need 700 milligrams or 600 to 700 milligrams of calcium. You do not need 1.5 grams of calcium. What you need is you need vitamin D, which can be got from sunlight or supplements. You need that to absorb the calcium that you can get from your leafy vegetables like your spinach, your bok choy, your chard, or from your almonds, from your seeds, your pumpkin seeds, your sunflower seeds. So you don't really need calcium. Now, it is natural. Dairy is a natural source of vitamin D. Myth. Why? People with dairy industry will tell you will not get vitamin D if you don't drink milk. But this was not in the milk. It is added to the milk. And it is added in such a small quantity that you need far greater. So you have to go out in the sunlight, or get a supplement. So that's a myth again. So, and finally, they say that dairy is essential for health. Dairy promotes dairy proteins like whey and casein and hormones, and all this is promoting ill health rather than health. So a lot of people come around and think that these myths are real and that they need to get calcium. No, you don't. Our final thoughts. Strong bones don't come from a from a cotton, but from plants. Calcium and vitamin D. Calcium is only, you can get it from your leafy vegetables, vitamin D from your sunlight or your supplements. Dairy has saturated fats and cholesterol that increase your cardiovascular disease and diabetes. If there is one thing you can give up today, it should be dairy. because you can get immediate results within a week. And there are so many non-dairy milks in the market. You got soy, you got oats, you got almond, you got cashew milk, and you also have pea milk. Well, you're worried about your proteins, then go for pea milk. And then you have your non-dairy yogurts too. The dairy industry, with its deep, deep, deep pockets and powerful lobby, has worked hard to keep milk in front of our children by influencing the FDA and putting it back into schools now, despite mounting evidence of harm. It is back into the school. The truth is, we don't need dairy to survive or thrive. What we need is the courage to break free from decades of marketing and make choices that truly, truly nourish us. And that's your whole food plant based SOS diet. Thank you very much. All right.
Wow, that was great. And I don't know about everyone else, but I picked up a couple of really nice nuggets out of that. And if you want to come back on camera, let's have a discussion. There
Any
we are. So first of all, we have a couple of questions in the chat. Let me see if I can get to them.
and since we have that time, they can ask about LP little a too.
Okay, okay. So Julie mentions a while back she had convinced her mother to stop eating and drinking dairy items due to congestion issues. It helped her greatly. Her GERD seemed to be gone now. And recently she had a mammogram, and the numerous cysts that they'd been monitoring for years seemed to be either greatly reduced or gone. Could this be related to her ceasing dairy consumption?
Absolutely. Yes, yes, no doubt about it. Uh, Anything from there's so many issues, whether you have chronic pains or arthritis, or I've seen a person with psoriatic arthritis who gave up milk, and he's doing absolutely great. He could not even play tennis, he was a tennis player. But when he gave up dairy completely and became a plant-based, he gave up dairy first. He was not plant-based. With the dairy itself, he could start playing back his game. So there are a lot of issues
Mhm.
to it, and we don't really realize this when we drink the milk and all that. For short term, we feel, oh, it may be a psychological effect or what have you, and you feel great about it. But later on in life, in 40s and 50s, it comes to haunt you when you start getting problems.
Yeah, Debbie, it is interesting. The dairy industry boasted about a lot of things like what Dr. Akil was saying. Your reduced waistline, you'll look better, you'll feel better with 2 glasses of milk each day. And they knew the hazards of drinking milk. And today it's been proven, and they're still trying to tout the same stuff. So here's a question for you, Dr. Akil. Debbie Scott. Some people will give a counter argument that they don't drink cow's milk, they only drink goat's milk. Do you know the harmful effects of goat's milk? Does it have IGF-1 like cow's milk does?
Now, I believe no milk, whether it is goat's milk or it is cow's milk, is good for you. Now, if you ask me in comparison, goat's milk may be better because you have this casein A1 and A2. The A2 is less harmful than A1, and that is what is found in goat's milk.
Mm.
So that can be a thing that people now will turn around, like sheep industry will say, oh, let's have goat's milk. But that A1 and A2, this thing, I had so many of my patients, doc, but I'm not having A1, I'm having A2 milk. And so everybody goes around and follows that A2 line. But it's same. It's harmful. Now, whether it is A1 is 100% harmful, A2 is 95% harmful. So they come out with this, it is less. They don't say how much less, what it is, less. So that's a problem. Sheep, I know a lot of people will turn around and say, oh, this is not cow's milk, this is cheese made out of goat's milk. And it's a delicacy. It's more expensive than cow's milk cheese. But
And
same,
isn't it the same thing about the fact that humans are the only species that even thinks about drinking milk of other species?
correct, correct. It is. We imagine, I'm just thinking about it. I read somewhere, imagine cows wanting breast milk, adult cows wanting breast milk. That's what we are doing. We are adult human beings wanting milk which is for the calf. And one thing that I wanted to point out just came to me right now, that I was lucky that I was born in India. You know why? Most of you don't know this, but the milk in India is adulterated. Not all milk, but the milk that comes to your house. We used to, way in 1960s and 70s, they used to bring milk at home into this tin cans, huge cans, and then they used to pour that milk and give it to you. But that was diluted. It was
Mm,
50% water and 50% milk.
cow's milk.
So actually, it was good that I got diluted, not the real concentrated one.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to say that even thinking that made me think about our children. And I'm so glad you brought out about the fact that they have passed that law that um, dairy cow's milk will be given to every child in school for breakfast and lunch and snack, whether they want it or not. And that's just it just blows my mind to think about that. And it's in the concentrated levels, and if they're forcing that on our children, and we know what it does to adults, what is it going to do as far as having a lasting effect on our children? And I appreciate the fact that what you said was just go a week without consuming dairy, and your body will readjust and you'll see the signs of the benefits of not having it. So thank you for that. I've got a couple more questions here.
I just want to
Mel,
I just want
okay.
to interject 1 minute that just prior to this, I got a call from my niece who's in Florida, and she's got hypoparathyroidism, the glands that are behind your thyroid. And she went to a doctor, and she was telling me what transpired. And the first thing, he was a plant-based doctor. He says, first thing you do is give up milk. So you can imagine that whether anything is hormonal, anything is digestive, anything is allergy, all these are easily treatable by just giving up something. Not really giving up. You like your yogurts and all that, you can get it with non-dairy
And
milk.
this is a question that segues really well after that. Mel says, I use unsweetened almond milk. I've also used flax milk. What type of alternate milk product do you feel is the best?
Uh, from point of view of allergies, I'm a little concerned when people, when you're going out, for example, that we are not sure whether almond milk or something. You try it out, that's good. But your oat milk is the safest. Whether you got heart disease or not, it's oat milk. And it is a tremendous amount of fiber. Now, if your taste buds don't agree with oat milk for some reason, then you can go for other milk. If you think you're not getting enough plant proteins, then go for pea milk, PEA. So that could help you. And if you think that pea milk doesn't taste that good and you like, say, soy milk, you get your protein too. So it depends on what you have. Like I have cardiovascular disease, so I tend not to go for almond milk or cashew milk. I will go in for oat milk. not
Hmm.
unsweetened oat milk. So
Hmm.
it is all dependent on each person.
And does that put coconut milk at the bottom of the list?
Coconut milk should not be used because it has got a lot and lot of saturated fat. Tremendous amount of saturated fat. While all these other milks we are talking about, nuts, is unsaturated fat. Now, Ayurvedic people will tell you the Ayurveda, and that is one thing I'm always at crossroads with them. They have got some great things, but they believe in using the clarified butter, the ghee,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is worse than milk. It increases your cholesterol in much more than your regular milk or regular oils.
I do want other people to ask questions, and I think I've exhausted our list that got in chat. But I have a question, and it's probably, I don't know where to put it in the realm of smart versus dumb, but you talked about inflammation. And, I think about the fact that there's inflammation that we can see that's noticeable, when we're inflamed, the inflammation in the ankles or the knees or whatever. Does inflammation also happen inside the body that we cannot see?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The after effects of these inflammation are when your joints start hurting, when you get mucus discharge, when you're coughing. It's not really infection, it's inflammation. You don't have temperature. You go and get your white blood count, it is normal. This is some sort of an inflammation that is going on in your body. It is slowly eroding all the good things that are there, your endothelial lining, this in the arteries, everything. So only thing is, it's not like an infection like pneumonia that you are aware of it and you say, oh my God, or chronic bronchitis, which is there because of your smoking, and then you have to get. This is something that is going on, working in your body, and eventually you'll end up one fine day having prostate cancer or ovarian cancer, or you get diverticulitis, or, you know, lots of other problems, GI problems, and others.
Interesting. Question came in, is soy milk high in fat?
Soy milk has fat, no doubt about it. But again, soy has unsaturated most of it. So we are talking about that fat which is there, but so does almond milk, so does cashew milk, everything else. So it depends on what level of this thing you want to. Uh, Again, the same question goes whether you got heart disease or not, or cardiovascular, and you want to use oat milk and the others. But it does have. But it's far safer than the saturated fat in the regular milk and the cholesterol in the regular milk. That is a killer, and they don't have any fiber.
Does
You can ask
do
questions regarding, sorry, Lynn, you can ask about LP little a also. If you want, Taisha, you can ask, and I'll be very happy to answer.
I'm very happy for others to ask your questions. And maybe while you're contemplating what they are, I'll go ahead and ask this one because I know you mentioned about fermented dairy products like yogurt. And does yogurt and other fermented dairy products have a different inflammatory profile because of their probiotic content, or are they still a concern?
Concern for what? I didn't get your question, ma'am.
Fermented dairy products.
Yeah,
Yogurt, I hear a lot of people saying, well, I don't do dairy, but I do yogurt.
correct,
I
correct.
stopped cheese, but I do yogurt.
Yeah, but you see, remember one thing, the yogurt out made out of milk, you're already having your casein and your lactose and all that is still there. Then what they do is they add this fermented things the lactobacillus in it in small quantities to make it yogurt. So why don't you have non-dairy yogurt, which is far better? Or if you feel that you don't need milk but you need fermented foods, then your kombucha and your other tempeh and what have you, your
Right, right.
sauerkraut, which I use a lot of sauerkraut.
Mm.
Anytime I feel, because I have a bad stomach problem because of the diverticulitis. So any of my food that I use is I always top it up with sauerkraut. But be careful about all these fermented foods. It may be very high salt. So for
Mhm.
Debbie, that's a thing to be concerned about. So outside sauerkraut, you can make it at home too.
So Debbie just dropped a question in. Do you want to ask your question, dear Debbie, or add your information?
Oh, I just mentioned that there is a lot of research on the benefits of soy. There are a lot of myths. Dr. Akil, you're talking about the myths of dairy, and soy is right up there with it. Because of the phytoestrogens, and a lot of people feel that it causes cancer, but the research shows having 2 to 3 servings a day, even though soy has the highest percentage of fat for any other bean or legume, those 2 to 3 servings are very important for health and actually and preventing breast cancer and preventing the reoccurrence of breast cancer. So anyway, but there was something that you were talking about right before that. What were you talking about just
The
before?
non-dairy yogurt?
The sauerkraut.
Oh,
So my question is, because I avoid it due to the sodium, but if you wash it, rinse it just like you would beans, does it still uh, does it still have the healthy prebiotics or probiotics in it?
I tend not to. I believe once you wash it, it's the brine, it's the liquid, which they always tell you when you take sauerkraut. When you take the sauerkraut, then push the sauerkraut back into its fluid, into its liquid.
Okay.
I believe it's a liquid also, along with the sauerkraut, that is important.
Oh, okay.
I think I've seen somewhere low salt sauerkraut, so we can always find that out. Even I would like to do because its content, salt content is high, and if I can get
It
something
is.
without
Yeah.
salt, of course I would do it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think Taisha has asked a question that if you have got
yes.
little a right now without having high cholesterol or having high cholesterol, remember one thing: lipoprotein A can be with high cholesterol, without high cholesterol. If you got LP little a or let me say lipoprotein A high, and you don't have cholesterol, and she has been put on statins. Uh, I
And she doesn't want to go on statins, so
Correct,
she's
but
trying to figure out what she can do. Yeah.
correct, correct. I absolutely agree. But I don't understand why, if your cholesterol is not high, I don't know how cholesterol numbers. If they're very much on the upper side or something, it's different. But I still would not go with statins. Now, the only thing that can bring down LP little a, what we have, otherwise there's no treatment right now.
Mhm.
The only way you can bring LP little a right now down, even to a certain extent, is by a shot of Repatha, your CSK9 inhibitors. Okay, that can bring it down by 30 to 35%. But FDA does not allow for bringing down LP little a because it is not for that. It is only for high cholesterol. So in that way, I am luckier than Taisha because I've got high cholesterol and LP little a. So I am getting a shot of Repatha, which is also bringing down my LP little a. I'm not taking statins. Now, having said that, a person whose cholesterol is high or not high and having lipoprotein A high must now be proactive on the other side of the risk factors. You've got to be so strong. You've got to be even more strong in your risk factors like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, your six pillars of lifestyle medicine, exercise and nutrition and plant-based. You should be so strict with it. Why? Because very soon you are going to get medications. So
Yeah,
there's nothing.
she's mentioned here that she also has kidney disease, so she can't take many medications. And so it looks like from what you're saying is the six pillars are really
Right now,
important
I
for
would
her to
not even
focus on.
advise her a bath or anything because the cholesterol is not high. So the basic thing is that once again, everybody should get it tested. Once they're negative, home free, once they're positive, they can take steps where whole food plant-based SOS diet brings it down by 16% lipoprotein A. So if you do a whole food plant-based diet along with your exercise and sleep well and reduction of stress, who knows, it may bring down even more. So the whole idea is that now some people don't believe in medications, and I'm not against them. But what I'm saying is if your LP little a is high, there is this lady who comes out in the open. She's been into the Senate and the House and she's spoken about it. Her name is Sandra Tremolis. And apparently, Sandra Frivolous, it was because of having heart disease in her family. Sandra made it a point to see that she led a very healthy life. So her lifestyle was very good. So she had normal blood pressure, normal cholesterol, and normal blood sugars and all that. But irrespective, despite of having normal cholesterol, plaques started building on in her arteries. And so what happened was, and she was going for a regular checkups, every screening, annual checkups, and everything was great. No high cholesterol, no triglycerides, nothing. And then one fine day, she has a massive heart attack at the age of 39. And when they further tested her, her LP little a was sky high. So you can get it.
Mm,
Having said that, you may come, but there are three drugs in the pipeline. These three drugs can reduce it by 90 to 98%. But what they're waiting is that whether these drugs can actually translate into less heart attacks, less strokes, that is what they're waiting for.
and the side effects.
And the side effects.
Yeah.
But right now, the only thing that one can do is, like I am, mine was 300. When I went to my cardiologist 2 years back or a year and a half back, and I said, look, my cholesterol is not coming down. I'm on a whole food plant-based diet. What is going on? So why don't we do our LP little a, my LP little a? And he says, you don't need it. And I said, please, get it done. You know, normal when I told you is up to the 50 thing, uh, uh, and mine was 310.
Mm. Mm.
So you can imagine. And what happens is it is genetically derived. So it has come from your parents, period. The unlucky child gets it. My son has got high, but very slight high. My daughter has got 160. So that's what the whole thing is. That you can, what you need to do now is to get tested so that you can get your children tested. And you can get your children up to 5 years tested because it is genetically, it won't change.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a 5-year-old child
It's
Normally, they wait till about 5 years. No, they wait till 9 years. Pediatricians wait, and then they get the lipid profile for children. But in this case, you can get it at 5 years, your LP little a. So that now you're very strong on the other risk factors.
Yes. And it's important. If you have high numbers, you definitely want to get the rest of your family tested to make sure that you can monitor their LP little a as well. And it's interesting, Debbie has mentioned here that she had a client that her LP little a was high. She went on statins and it went up. Her LP little a numbers went up. It was already elevated. She was on a strict whole food plant-based SOS-free diet, but her LP little a went up after being on statins.
Statins do increase the LP little a. Therefore, we do not use statins for that. You're right,
Okay,
Debbie.
okay. Well, Dr. Akil, this is so interesting. I'm looking at the time. We are already over time. And I want to make sure that people know that we want them to have all this great information. So the recording will be available for you soon. In the meantime, we'd love for you to know what else Dr. Akil is doing. And so we wanted to share. There we go.
Yeah, walk with a dog is what we have started doing in Atlanta. So if you know anybody in Atlanta who would like to join with us, that'll be great. What we do is 5 to 7 minutes before the walk, we take a health topic. Like next time it is going to be skin health on Saturday night. So we do that, and then we go on for a walk. So the walk is about 2 miles, 3 miles, depending on how people feel. It is a very relaxed sort of a thing, and there are three doctors. Actually, the doctor and I, we are co-managing this walk with a dog. So at least I go up and down if anybody has any question, and there are of health issue, then we try to answer. So that's a great thing that we have started. And shop and cook with the dog, I already told you that I have, next one I'm doing is okra, which is called bhindi in Indian language. And and don't ask me why, but we also call it lady fingers. So in India, it is called lady fingers also, okra. And so I'm going to do okra Indian style. And I'm going to do a dessert, which when I was in Hilton Head this time, and there was a potluck of the founding members. They had invited me and my wife, and we found out a dessert which was so well done. It was amazing. It was with cherries and silky tofu overnight and then put into berries and all that. So I may plan to do that along with the okra. So that is shop and cook with the dog. All my recipes are out there, and they are simple recipes, so simple food, not gourmet food. And then I have the doctor's corner, which I do monthly talks like this. So that is great. And if you have anybody in mind, especially if you know anybody with the medical institutes or medical schools, because that is where I want young doctors to understand. So please let me know and pass the message around if you know. Uh, I don't mind even traveling to Canada, Toronto. So as long as I'm getting my message out.
Thank you, everyone. We
Uh,
so appreciate you being here with us today. We look forward to seeing you next month, where Dr. Akil is going to actually be talking about what are you going to be talking about? Fueling the golden years, a nutritional roadmap for healthy living.
oh,
What do
I
we
did
need to do?
tell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Akil. Thank
Thank you
you.
again.
Bye bye.